What is up, Scentsy fans? It's Patricia, and today I'm doing a warm review for the Scents of the Season Wax collection. This is a collection of 5 scent bars that you can only buy as a set. Comes in a royal blue velour type bag, and I will put the price in the description box for both the US and Canada. Right now, as I film the video, it is still available. If you want individual bars, you can put them in your club and secure them that way. So I feel like I have a lot to say just because I have a lot of notes. So if I refer down to my notes quite often, that's why. So let's go in order alphabetically. The first one we have is Cuddles. This is I don't know how to describe that, almost like a greeny blue slate colored wax. This would be the masculine cologne style woodsy fresh scent of the bunch. It's a medium plus intensity, so let's read the scent description. Scentsy says, fresh mountain air, carries citrusy bergamot and herbal lavender over subtle white sandalwood. So my first notes I've written down are masculine, cologne, earthy, woodsy, and fresh. So it started off pretty strong. It did kind of decline a bit, but it still was a good performer. I say I get the fresh air, the mountain fresh air, citrusy bergamot. It definitely goes towards that masculine cologne style bergamot. Herbal lavender, I would say there's probably herbal lavender in here. I don't really love this scent, and I don't love lavender, so that could be why. White sandalwood. I don't think I can detect white sandalwood. Usually sandalwood would probably be contributing to the cologne style fragrance. However, white things in scent descriptions I find are typically on the lighter side, but it might be kind of blending into the background. So I have a note, this is not a Patricia style scent, but what did my family think of this one? So there's a little bit of an asterisk with my husband, so we'll talk about that towards the end. But at first, he said, you can keep it. He didn't like this one. He says, don't ever bring this to the house again, not for me. 3 out of 10, which is probably the lowest he's ever given. Erica said 6 out of 10. Ryan has a theme in this Scents of the Season. He said, ooh, I like that. 8.75 out of 10. So I decided to warm it in the boys' room initially, and then I also decided to warm 1 cube in the entranceway because I didn't really want it in my room. I didn't really want it in the bathroom. So that's kind of how I did it. So we'll talk about the entranceway first. I would say it was average to above average in a glass mini warmer. And I just rate it that way for that warmer because I'm not really going to give it a number because glass mini warmers, they don't have the best performance in general. And sometimes a good scent to put in a glass mini warmer is one maybe you find a bit too strong or you don't really like that much and it'll kind of dull it down a little bit for you. Now, the boys' room, they have a full size and a mini in their room. So I put 2 in the full, 1 in the mini. And it was about 9 out of 10 at its peak intensity. And it started to decline around the 12-hour mark. I have a note it was between 5 and 6. I did leave it going 3 days in the boys' room and probably only about 2 days in the entranceway. This scent, I have a note. It says, how you doing? Because this reminds me of something that Joey Tribbiani would put on if he was going on a mountain cabin getaway. That's what I said. And the sense that this reminds me of, it's almost like My Dear Watson, and I don't have either of these scents to smell, so I could be way off, but my brain was going, if My Dear Watson and Winter's Eve went on a boys trip and they were in the room together for a while, maybe you would get Cuddles. So speaking of that, it's more of a bedroom, maybe a bathroom, an office type of scent. It's strong enough you could probably put it in a main space, but I don't really feel it's a main space kind of scent. And I will tell you, I had the scents for my family to smell, and my husband had already smelled this because this is the first one I warmed. And he didn't really realize because he never looks at the name, he just opens it and smells. And he smelled it a few days later and goes, ooh, 8 out of 10. And I said, listen here, bud, let's review. I grabbed my notes. I said, you said initially, keep it, don't ever bring it into the house again, not for me, 3 out of 10. And he said, I think it's the way you're perceiving the scents each day. He said, make sure you tell your viewers to give scents a chance and maybe smell them 2 different days because he goes, this is a prime example of how his opinion changed. So that's my take-home message to you. If you smell a scent and you're not sure, smell it again a few days later and see what you think. So Cuddles, not for me, but pretty good performer. All right, let's talk about the second scent of the set. It is Christmas Tree Farm. And this is a light, gentle green colored wax, about just shy of medium on cold sniff intensity. And I would put this in the woods category. And it's a little bit different than the woods from Cabin Cuddles because this is more of an atmospheric smoky woods. So let's read the scent description, which doesn't mention smoke, but it's definitely there. It says, icy cool air mingles with Fraser fir trees, brightened with sparkling bergamot and an earthy hint of white moss. So initially I have a note, earthy, gentle, and woodsy. A gentle fir. I got a gentle bark or a pine cone, and I felt like I got a gentle sandalwood. Almost that white sandalwood I was feeling should have been in Cabin Cuddles. Might be in this one. Then something medicinal came out, and I have a note. Maybe that was the moss. I'm not really big into moss, so that part I didn't really like. I liked the first part. The moss medicinal didn't like so much. There was a creaminess to this. And then the smokiness came out for me later. Now, a lot of people smelled smoke on cold sniff. I don't think I did. I did not smell smoke on cold sniff, but it reminded me of a dry style smoke, not overly sweet, but sweeter than silver spur. So a dry smoke, not overly sweet, but a tiny bit sweeter than silver spur with no cologne-ness to it. So it's not as good as around the campfire smoke, but it's a very authentic smoke. I'm going to give it that. So I actually feel like this would be a vendor wax type of scent. It's complex, and I just feel like it kind of fits with that. And I did have a picture in my brain of what this reminded me of. So I'll put the picture down. I tried to find something similar, but this is what I could find. So they talk about icy cool air. I don't really get icy cool air. In fact, for me, I almost get a dry, like earthiness at some point. So let me just imagine the picture that I'm showing you. It's a Christmas tree lot run by a guy named Wes. So the W part stands for woodsy. There's a little bit of the fir from the Christmas tree lot, but not a lot, not like you think there's going to be. But you're also getting like the bark and the pine cone. So lots of bark. And when I did my first sniff videos, it sounds like I said barf, but I did not. It's bark, B-A-R-K, okay? Tree bark. So that's the W for Wes, the guy who's running the tree lot. So the middle part is the E for the earthiness. And so I think that's the white moss and that medicinal tone that I was getting. But what I'm also getting later on in the warming is an earthy, almost like when you see grass that is dead and it's like dry. That's what I feel like I'm smelling, like a dry, not quite hay, but kind of. And then the S part for Wes is the smokiness. So like I said, there's definitely a smokiness. It's almost like way in the distance, you see that little cabin with the little stream of smoke. And I don't think that's in the picture, but I wish there was a little stream of smoke because there's definitely smoke in here. And I would say 2/3 of the warming, you're getting mostly just that authentic cabin in the distance smoke, which is really nice. And I will tell you, I didn't really think much of this on cold, but I preferred it once I smelled it again and once I warmed it again. It's not really still my kind of scent, but I definitely say the scent appeal went up and the performance was fairly long lasting. So let's talk about my family. My husband said, this one's not good, smells like Vicks Vapor Rub. And he said 5 out of 10. So he was smelling the icy cool air. I was not. Erica gave this 1 out of 10. She really didn't like it. Ryan said, ooh, 7.5. So I decided to put it in the kids' bathroom. It was about 6, 7. And I think I left it going 2 days there. I forgot to take really detailed notes on performance. But then I eventually added this to the boys' room. So the boys' room, I left it going for 4 days. But again, I had kind of amalgamated the bathroom wax with the bedroom wax. So anyway, the boys' room, I would say it was also between 6 and 7. And I did leave it going 4 days. When I removed it this morning, the room still had that smoky, cabin-y feel of, out in the distance. But the scent was not there in the wax at all. So it must be a lingering type of scent. All right, so you're thinking, okay, that's a lot. You're giving me a lot. What does it smell like currently? What can I relate it to? Well, maybe if you took very snowy spruce and then silver spur and then still creamed it out a little bit, maybe you would get something in the ballpark. But it is different. I'd say this is a different style scent. If you end up liking this, I would definitely say club it. And I feel like I've smelled a DW home candle that smells like this. I always smell lots of candles when I go to some of the discount stores, and I feel like I've smelled something like this, but I didn't take note of what it was. Nice for a bedroom, like an office, even a main space that you want that smoky feel. If you had a cabin, this would work out great for a cabin. I think in order to pick this one up, you're definitely going to have to like smoky scents. Would I be buying more of this one? Personally, no, but one of my customers has asked me to put it in my club for her. So I've been hearing good things about it. So that is Christmas Tree Farm. All right, so the next three scents, hopefully I can go through a little bit faster. The third one is Cranberry Christmas Cake. This is a red colored wax, beautiful color, about medium intensity, and this is one of the bakery style scents, but it's more of a fruity dominant, very little bakery style scent. So let's read the scent description. Scentsy says, layers of creamy vanilla and cranberry jam sprinkled with ruby crystals. So of course we don't know what ruby crystals are. I joke around, whoever made up the foggy mist for Velvet Moon, that person's come back from vacation and they decided to put ruby in the scent description because we don't really know what ruby smells like. But this does smell like a jammy scent, almost like a sweet cranberry jam, but then that is kind of its own little package. And then the rest of the scent reminds me of an amalgamation of maraschino sugar cookie with cranberry muffin. That's exactly what I get. Like a maraschino sugar cookie met cranberry muffin baby with a tiny little twist of a little bit more jamminess in the background. I don't get a lot of bakery. In fact, they talk about vanilla. There's not very much vanilla. What I'm getting a bit more than I prefer is a buttery note leaning towards that artificial butter extract type of note. So this was fine for me, just on overall scent appeal. Nothing that I need more of. It's just I don't really like maraschino sugar cookie and I don't love cranberry muffin, so it's kind of a no-brainer, but it was a little bit better than both of those scents for me. So what did my family think? My husband said no comment, but I'll give it 6 out of 10. Erica said 5 out of 10, and Ryan said that's pretty good at 9 out of 10. So I decided to warm 1 cube in the entrance. I would say it was average to maybe just slightly below average for its scent throw. And in the open area, I'd say it was between 6 and 7. And I think I left it between 1 and 1.5 days and then removed it. So this would be good for a kitchen or a smaller scent. It didn't really do the greatest in my main space. When I say 6 to 7, that was at its peak, so obviously it's dropping after that. And I have a note that when Scentsy has fruity bakery, there's very little bakery, and this is kind of a good example. It's mostly fruit with just the tiniest hint of bakery. Will I be repurchasing this one? No, it's an easy pass, but it wasn't bad. I just didn't really need any more. So that is Cranberry Christmas Cake. All right, let's talk about the fourth scent. It is Sugared Peppermint Flurries. This is a beautiful, almost a Velvet Moon colored wax, that creamy light blue with the tiniest bit of gray. On cold sniff, this is about a medium light intensity, and I would say it's a fresh style bakery. So the minty fresh with a confectionery style bakery. So let's read the notes. It says sweet marshmallows and sugar crystals swirl in a refreshing air of peppermint. All right. These are my kind of scents. This one I just didn't love because I have a scent that I really truly love, so it's up against stiff competition. But I think the thing I didn't like about this is the type of peppermint. I'm very picky about my peppermint. This comes across as a dry, dusty peppermint, which I tend to not prefer. There's also a nose clearing peppermint, which I also tend to not prefer. What I prefer is the candy cane sweet type peppermint. So not really sweet like candy cane, even though it says sweet peppermint. I find it's dry and dusty. And I don't get a lot of the sugar crystals I'm thinking, but I think I'm getting marshmallow, but it's not a billowy sweet marshmallow. It's just a regular marshmallow. So what did my family think of this one? My husband said, oh, this is peppermint. It's more of a seasonal scent. And remember, he doesn't look, he just opens and smells it like this. So I was thinking he does pretty well. He said between 5.5 and 6 out of 10. Erica said 7 out of 10. And Ryan said smells like peppermint, 9.5 out of 10. So I decided, of course, being a Patricia style scent, I really wanted to test it out here in the bedroom. So I did 2 cubes in the element warmer and 2 cubes in my bathroom, left the door open. It was about 7.5, but I will say I kind of screwed up and I put this one on and I had this one going for a bit, then realized I forgot to put the bathroom on. So the bathroom I think I put on, I think it was 8 hours later. So I didn't really get a good judge, but the one that was in the bedroom was throwing well, and it threw well for probably 6 hours at least, and then it kind of really died down. And that's kind of what I found. It just threw really well and then it died down. And then in the storage room I put 1 cube, and it didn't do very well in the storage room. It was a 20-watt beehive warmer. Somebody asked what is a beehive, and I said it's a warmer. So you can I'll put a little picture here. But I have a note that was underwhelming in that area. I would have had to use more wax, or I think this one might need stronger warmers than like a 20 or a 15 or a 10. So for terms of what is this the closest to, it's peppermint is closer to mint to be merry peppermint. The marshmallow is different than the marshmallow in marshmallow mint. It's not as billowy and sweet. It's more of a neutral marshmallow, and there's not that cookie note that you get in Mint to Be Merry. It's not like frosted marshmallow though. So where would I warm this? I mean, you're probably going to want to stick to small to medium spaces to get the best performance, something that's enclosed to keep it as long lasting as possible. And like I said, this scent is up against my second favorite Scentsy scent, which is Marshmallow Mint, which I absolutely love. So it's really hard for a scent to knock that one off its pedestal, but this was enjoyable. I just don't need to repurchase anymore because performance just was, I'm not sure. All right, let's talk about the final scent in the collection. It's the prettiest packaging for Sweet Christmas Lily. This one is a light pink color wax, and I feel like the pink is different than the nude peach in the front. So that kind of bugs me for some reason. I would say on cold sip intensity, this is about a light scent, maybe just above a light, and I have a note would be in the floral, but it's a perfume style floral. So let's read the description. Scentsy says, the sweetness of candied sugar warmed by pink amber mingles with delicate white lily. And actually, this is the third scent in this collection with the word Christmas. Sometimes they avoid that word, but they've really gone deep with the Christmas words in the sense of the season this year, so maybe they're doing a little experiment. Okay, so this is a feminine scent. It's not really a seasonal Christmas type scent to me, but I have notes. It's delicate, it's pretty, it's sweet, it's a little bit romantic, and it's slightly powdery perfume. So the tone that I get on cold sniff, when I first smelled it, it reminded me of that medicinal tone that you get from Tiger Balm. So I'm thinking that's the pink amber. I'm happy to report that I didn't really smell that as obvious as I did that first cold sniff. So in other words, when I re-smelled it, I couldn't smell it quite as strong. And then when I had it in the warmers, it didn't really come across like that. So that's good. So overall, better on warm for me. But it was hard to smell. It wasn't a very strong scent for me, but let's see what my family said. My husband said, ooh, this smells like a bath. 7 out of 10. And Erica said 7 out of 10. And Ryan said, ooh, I like that, at 9.5 out of 10. So I would say this had the best overall family appeal. I might have been the lowest on the appeal, but overall my family seemed to like this. So I decided to put it in the kids' bath, since my husband said it smells like a bath. Really hard to smell there. I have that Why Are You Blushing, which that room is a crappy room to scent. But that performer is actually, or that warmer is actually performing fairly well for me, and it's really bright, so I like it in there right now. So I had it between 3 and 4 out of 10 there. I left it going between 1 and 2 days. And then I decided also to put it in Erica's room. So it was a little bit stronger there, between 4 and 5 out of 10. Eventually I took the bathroom wax and just added it to Erica's room. So in her full-size warmer, there was 4 cubes and just 1 in a mini. And I would say that kind of helped it along. It seemed to go for almost about 2 or 3 days, but at a light intensity. But it was very pleasant. It really felt like an Erica style scent in terms of something she might wear or she might smell like this. And I have a note, I picture this as an old style scent for a younger person. So maybe when Julie Andrews from The Sound of Music, maybe when she was younger, she might have worn something like Sweet Christmas Lily. Not an older person scent, but an old fashioned scent for a younger person. Anyway, I would say bedrooms and bathrooms for this one. Small spaces would be best. And I suspect this will be placed in the catalog next year, and I'll give you 2 reasons. Because it's a floral, they can put it in the floral section, which is hard to populate in the fall and winter. Also, because it's a weaker style scent, I feel like they put gentle florals in and gentle scents in because people have to use more wax when you have a gentle scent. And if you really like this one, you're probably not going to mind loading up a little bit. When I did load it up, longevity was pretty good. Not a repurchase for me, but I did enjoy it in Erica's room. So that is Sweet Christmas Lily. All right, so overall, I would say I was fairly pleased with this, but I will say I always kind of want a cookie scent for the scents of the season because you kind of associate, like, you know, scents of the season with Christmas cookies and baking. And they did give us a couple of variations of a bakery, but not a real cookie. So unfortunately, that's okay. But they always try to switch it up. So let me know what your thoughts are if you picked this up. If you put any in your club to look forward to, let me know which ones you put in your club. So thanks for spending the last few minutes with me. I hope you have a great day in your neck of the woods. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new. If you liked the video, give me a thumbs up, please. Take care, and I'll see you guys in the next video.